the Madhava Prabhu when he wants us to start. Once you sit down.
Once you sit down?
Yeah, when everything's quiet. After doing asana.
Will you take over?
Okay, so once it's ready, you bring the mic over, right?
Yeah.
Special Sunday brunch. We've had many Sunday brunches, and as Prabhu said this morning, he said good morning. It's a good morning to be at the Harmony Collective. He said every morning's a good morning to be at the Harmony Collective. And in general, we would agree. But today especially is a wonderful morning to be here because we're going to see a devotee who's dear to all of us, Bhakti-Indi, make spiritual vows to the person who's inspired her to commit her existence, not just, sometimes we say life, but existence to Krishna and Mahaprabhu and their culture and their mission. We're going to watch that exchange, and in the same way that Vedic yajna and ceremony is different from most of their parallels in the West that we're used to, so this initiation is different, and our own presence here today is a little different than the kind of spectator experience that most things are in the West. By being here today and watching Dee make this vow, and Vaisesika Prabhu also committing to nurture her and care for her as her spiritual master, we're agreeing to support that union. We're agreeing to support and help in that nourishment on both sides, help in that service on both sides. So I'm very grateful to all of you for being here today. And for me, being that Vaisesika Prabhu is one of my personal heroes, it's very meaningful that you would be the first devotee to conduct an initiation ceremony here in our Harmony Collective community. So thank you for that. And having it not happen until Gorni tide came also says something, I think. So it's all very poetic, and somehow or other, I was really anticipating that we would get I was going to say get married. I was really anticipating we were going to have the ceremony in the garden because Bees worked so hard to help in the garden. I'll take my moments now because Bee requested maybe I could share something, so I'll just do that while time allows. I wrote a newsletter about Bee a few weeks ago. Did anybody read that newsletter? Yeah, it was called Wait and Be, B-E-A. And one of the most, I heard His Grace Radhika Raman Prabhu say some years ago that we haven't done a service in Krishna consciousness until someone else can do it. Until someone else can take up our service, we haven't done a service. Mm-hmm. And that's the nature of parampara, is that we're meant to be replaced. We're meant to be overtaken by others who are inspired by what we've done and then can build on that. And in one of his most famous purports, Prabhupada speaks about how Lord Nityananda delivered Jagai and Madai, but by Nitai's mercy, his followers can deliver Jagai and Madai wholesale, in bulk, quantity. And so I've tried to look for that dynamic in my own service in whatever small ways, that am I carrying myself in a way that others can come behind me, after me, and do even better, do even more. And it's a very hard thing to create, actually, for so many reasons, personally and socially and where we are. it's a very difficult dynamic to generate, and you can see it's one of the reasons Prabhupada is such a profound example of an acharya and a spiritual master, is because of how many people he was able to empower in that way. And so in a very small way, but also very meaningfully, when I saw how B took up the service in the garden, it was very edifying for myself, because for years I'd worked hard in the garden to try to make it almost like the deity that the folks in Ypsilanti town could appreciate, knowing that they would never come inside and see the holy name board or Gornitai necessarily, now that they're here. Still, by seeing Krishna's temple, they can have some connection with Krishna. And seeing the ring of flowers around in the garden, it's like seeing the garland that's been offered to the deity. And who's been here when somebody just stops in the middle of the street and steps? Yeah, it happens often. It's not like once or twice. It happens all the time. This time of year, people will just stop their car in the middle of the street and step out and see all the beautiful things that folks have done. The beautiful sign from Jaigor and Vana, the flowers that have been planted, the curation of the painting, which was like this whole yajna that many of us participated in years ago. So to see B come in and recognize all the beauty and all the efforts and all the love that had gone in for a good 8 years before she ever came, and watch her take over that service and really amplify it, not just maintain it, not just do good enough, but really improve upon it, taking advantage of the sacrifice that devotees had made prior. It was so moving. I'm still so grateful every time I think about, holding back my own crocodile tears. So, it gave me the reassurance when Ananda asked me, is B ready to take this step? My Gurudev would like to know, what's your thoughts as the temple president? When I considered that, then I said, yes, B is ready. Because that's the principle that carries us through all the other things. In one sense, initiation is the beginning, and there's lots that we've got to work through. But because B's grabbed hold of this principle of serving in parampara in the most meaningful way, I'm confident that she's going to do well and continue, carry it through to the end. So congratulations today, B.
Thank you, David Madhav Prabhu, for being such an exemplary leader. The way you hold forth in all ways in your life is inspiring all of us. And every community requires a nucleus, and you're that nucleus that attracts us all here. Thank you for all that you're doing. Hare Krishna. Thanks all of you for your spirit of enthusiasm for taking up Krishna consciousness and also spreading it to others. It's the most needed commodity in the material world, and it's in short supply. And people are looking for it, and there's a training center, a base from which we imbibe, which means to drink, the Krishna consciousness, and then we're able to go out and hold forth towards with other people and explain to them the ways of Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, and show them an exemplary lifestyle. So what you're all doing here is vital. It's vital for all living entities. So thank you for taking it seriously. And finally, to B, thank you for giving your whole heart to Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, to the process of devotional service, to all the devotees here, and to your services. And today, as you make your vows, there will be a change in the universe, because vows are what make the world go round. And it's one of the most enlivening experiences ever that we can have in Krishna consciousness, to watch somebody who's developed their faith and then made a decision, because that has to be done also, and saying that I'm planting my flag here and I'm going to go forth hand in hand with the devotees and I'm going to serve Krishna. And that's life-changing. So To all of you, Hare Krishna. So, the order of events, which will take place now, unless there's any veto or objection, is that we'll have Bhakti B come and sit here, or because we want you to do the Achman, but you're so nicely situated there. Maybe you stay there and do Achman. We'll do the Achman ceremony, which is purification by mantra. And then, just after that, we'll chant the Sri Brahma-samhita. And Ananda Murari Prabhu sent it out on a link. So if you don't know the Brahma-samhita, then please learn it in the next couple seconds. Or you can look at it on your device. And if you don't have a device, see me afterwards. We have a deal. We'll chant the Brahma-samhita. And then I'll say a few words about the meaning of the initiation, Harinam initiation. And then Bhakti B will come up here and she'll take her vows in front of Srila Prabhupada, the deities, and all the assembled Vaishnavas. And then we'll commence the fire yajna to invoke auspiciousness. And as we do the fire ceremony, that when we're saying swaha, you're offering grains into the fire to the wife of Agni. Agni's offering it up to Krishna. There's actually the original fire pits, as you see here, are designed geometrically. They had to be perfect. That's where geometry comes from. If you liked it in school, then now you know where it came from. If you didn't, it had to be geometrically perfect because it's actually a technology. It's a portal through which we connect to the Supreme. Whether or not we created it properly today is probably in question, but that's not the point. We're visiting the spirit of bygone ages and the commitment of the fire ceremony of offering one's heart to Krishna when we say swaha and putting the grains in the fire. So now we'll perform the Achman. So please repeat after me. Om apavitra pavitrova sarvavastam gatopiva yasmare pundarikaksham sababhya abhyantara shuchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Om Keshavaya Namaha Om Narayanaya Namaha Om Madhavaya Namaha Om Apavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yasmare Pundarikaksham Sababhya Abhyantara Shuchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Om Keshavaya Namaha Om Narayanaya Namaha Om Madhavaya Namaha Om Apavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gatopiva Yasmare Pundarikaksham Sababhya Abhyantara Shuchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu Om Keshavaya Namaha Om Narayanaya Namaha Om Madhavaya Namaha. This mantra we just chanted says, whatever condition of life you're in now, pure or impure, you'll become purified just by remembering the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhava mad bhakto. Just meditate on me, think of me. And when we think of Krishna, then we're always in a state of purity, inwardly and outwardly. And this is achieved, Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without stoppage. And for those who are unable to chant without stoppage, it means that you have to chant at least once a day. And for those who are initiated and take the vow, it means the minimum of at least 16 rounds a day. That means without stoppage. And now let's chant together the Brahma-samhita. We'll do only the 5th chapter, because that's the only one that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found in the Adikeshava temple. And we'll start from Ishvara Parama Krishna and then go to Chitamani Prakara Sadmasu through to the end. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakhi Ananda Vigraha Anadi Radhir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu Kalpa Vriksha Laksha Vriteshu Surabira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Samrama Sevyamanam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kwanantam Adavindam Talaya Taksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Malya Vamshi Radnam Kadam Pranaya Keli Kalavilasham Shamam Tribanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yassa Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayauvanam Cha Vedeshu Dulavam Adulavam Atma Bhaktau Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Antasu Koti Shatavatsara Sambragamyo Vayoradhapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam Sopyastya Prapada Simya Vichintya Tatsve Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Saura Charitum Jagadanda Kotim Yashakti Resh Kanda Chayaya Danta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yadbhava Bhavitadiyo Manuchasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sayanana Bhusha Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitai Suvanti Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Vitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Kaya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Chudita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramani Muti Shukalani Amena Tishtan Nanavataram akarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishna swayam samabhavat paramapumanyo Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Sya prabha prabhapato jagadanda koti Koti shvashesha vasudadi vibuddhi bindam Tad brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Maya hiyasya jagadanda shatani sute Traigunya tad vishaya veda vitaya mana Sattva balambi pada sattvam vishuddha sattvam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Ananda chinmaya rasadmataya manasu Yapraninam pratipalam smarutam upetya Lilayatena bhuvanani jayatya jastram Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Golokanamni nijadamni taleta tasya Devi Mahesha Haridamastu Teshu Teshu Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitascha Yena Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Shruti Siti Sadhana Shakti Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Viparti Durga Ischadurupam api yasya chacheshta tesa Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Shiram yatadadabhikada vishesha yogat Sanjayate nahitata pratigasti heto Yashambhutam apitata samupaiti karyad Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Departure eva hidashantanam abhyupetya Dipayate pravrta hetu samana dharma Yastadrageva hija vishnu chaya vibhati Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Yakaranarna bhajale bhajati sma yoga Nidramananta jagadanda saromakrupaha Adhara shaktim avalamya param smamurtim Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Yashaika kala matavalambya Jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanata Vishnur mahansa ihayasya kala vishesho Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Bhasvanya tasma sakaleshu nijeshu teja Swiyam kiya prakadaya tabitadvadatra Brahma ya esha jagadanda vidhana karta Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Tatpada pallava yugam vinidaya kumbha Dvanve pranama samaye sakanadi raja Vignan vihantum alamasya jagatrayasya Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Agnir mahi ganganam amumurudishascha Kalastatadma manasiti jagatrayani Yasmad bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti yamsha Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Yachakshuresa savita sakala grahanam Raja samasta suramurti rashesha tejaha Yasyagnaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Dharmo tapapa nichaya shutayastapamsi Brahmadikita patagada paryascha jiva Yadatra matra vibhava prabhava Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yastvindra Gopam Atavendra Mahosa Karma Bandhanu Rupa Palabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chapakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Piti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tassa Sadrishim Tanumapurete Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumishchinta Mani Ganamayi Toyamamratam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Api Vamshi Priyasaki Chidanandam Jyoti Paramapi Taraswadyam Api Cha Sayatra Shirabhi Sravati Surabhibhyasha Sumahan Nimeshardhyakyo Vavrajati Nahi Atrapi Samayaha Bhaje Shweta Dvipam Tamahamiha Golokamityam Vidantaste Shantakshiti Viralachara Katipaye Ato Vacha Mahavishnur Bhagavantam Prajapatim Brahman Mahatma Vignane Prajasarga Chichanmati Panchashlokim Imam Vidyam Vatsatapam Vibodame Prabhude Jnana Bhaktivya Mayananda Chinmayi Ude Tinutama Bhaktir Bhagavat Prema Lakshana Pramanaistat Saracharaistaravyasir Nirantaram Bodhayanat Manatmanam Bhakti Mapyutamam Labed Yasya Shreyaskaram Nasti Yaya Nivritumapnuyat Yasariyatimam Mamevya Dharma Manyam Prityaja Mamekam Vacha Vishwasan Yadrishi Shraddha Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi Kurvan Nirantaram Karma Loko Yam Adavartate Tenaiva Karmana Dhyayam Vamparam Bhaktimicchati Aham Hi Vishwasya Characharasya Bijam Pradhanam Prakriti Pumamscha Maya Hitam Teja Idam Vivarshi Videhi Tomato Jaganti Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakshi Ananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Iti Sri Brahma-samhita Sampurnam Hari Om Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shrunivari Paschati Shitani Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gotushe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Navustate Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The chanting of Hare Krishna doesn't wait for initiation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that anytime one can chant, that you may begin chanting Hare Krishna before you even know about initiation. And there's, with every syllable, a shower of nectar, which one receives according to one's state of consciousness. And that requires a pure consciousness requires a process of purification. And therefore, in the system of bhakti yoga, following the acharyas, such as Srila Jiva Goswami, we accept this Harinam initiation because when it's available, when you can receive the mantra from a Vaishnava and through the Guru Parampara, then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that you'll be able to make advancement very quickly. If you don't, if you say that I don't need anybody and I'll go on chanting by myself, then it'll be very difficult to make advancement. So someone might say, what are all these extra things? What about just chant Hare Krishna? Okay, go ahead, let's see you do it. Most people have a hard time just to chant Hare Krishna because in the modern age we're preoccupied with many other duties to do, and there are various distractions. Have you noticed any distractions?
Yeah.
And therefore, to be able to enter into the process of chanting Hare Krishna with a vow, under the protection of the Guru Parampara, is highly effective. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary to Ajamil in the 6th canto, says, if you can get that from a Vaishnava Guru and then you neglect it, then you're committing the offense of, in the 10 offenses of disobeying the orders of the spiritual master, which is interesting. Furthermore, Srila Jiva Goswami says that going through the process of initiation, which is described as Pancha Samskar, there's 5 different levels or steps in the process of initiation. It's not an event, but a process. He says that it's important to go through this process because the process of Bhagavat Marg, the chanting of Hare Krishna, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and the association of like-minded devotees, and the Panchatric system, which is meant for worshipping the deity and living a lifestyle centered around worshipping the deity, go together like 2 tracks for a train, and it rides smoothly on those 2 tracks. You might ask, then, what are these 5 steps that you just mentioned? So the first one is called tapa. Tapa means that you make a determination in your heart after considering the situation very carefully that I'm not optimistic about the material world. It doesn't offer any end game that seems feasible for happiness. Would you concur?
Yes.
But make a note, put in the record, Bhakti B is vigorously shaking her head. Yes, she agrees. Because the end game is that we have to give up whatever we accumulate in this lifetime and start over again. We get moved along, and nobody likes to get moved along. Do you like getting moved along? Somebody comes and says, hey, you can't stand here, get out of here. And that to the 10th power is what death is like. So one who starts to develop a pessimism for the material world, that I don't think there's very good options here. So I'll move myself along. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pratirvata, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti mam yajinopi mam. Said you can go any direction you like, little jiva. You're free to move about the universe or go beyond it. And he offers in the Bhagavad Gita, does Krishna, a process through which one can transfer oneself from this very chunky and difficult to deal with, all hyphenated, material world and go back home, back to Godhead. And that's the process of bhakti. So when one becomes a little pessimistic about the material world and then wants to take the positive step and begins to identify with being a devotee, first comes a sentiment that I like these people. I don't know who they are, but I think they've got something nice. And we find that people sometimes see the devotees, they come join, they're not sure exactly what everything means. In fact, the first initiates in the Krishna consciousness movement had no idea that there were 4 regulative principles. Prabhupada posted them on the door after the initiation. Perhaps he didn't want to take any chances on getting the Krishna consciousness movement started. But the second stage is called Pondra. which this called Urva Pundra, which means the markings that go upward and downward and show that externally I start to identify as a Vaishnava. So people see the tilak marking, like when I was getting off the plane the other day, the last stewardess said, I keep meaning to ask you, what is that? Anyway, it's Hare Krishna. So you become identified as a devotee of Krishna. And you start to show the external symptoms or signs of a Vaishnava by wearing tilak or vapundra. Now you might not want to know what the third stage is, right?
Yes.
If so, say yes, because only I'll tell Ananda Murari Prabhu since he said yes. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Third is called Nama. Nama means that you get a new name, just like in the federal witness protection system. When you're being pursued by the mob or someone else, then, or you go state's witness and say, I'm going to cooperate now with the government, then they give you a new name. And nobody can find you then. New name, new identity, everything new. And so in a similar way, when we're taking refuge from the material world, all the various vestiges we have, all our investments in the material world, they may still pursue us. We may even be a debtor. In fact, we are debtors. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Karabhajana Muni says, Devarshi bhutapnandrinam pitranam nakintrayo na nayam ranicha rajan sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam kutom kundam prihritakartam, which means that everyone's born in debt. And we have a debt to, you'd like to know who you owe to, right?
Yeah.
Only Ananda Murari wants to know. Okay, everyone else cover your ears. Devas means we get light, we get water, we get all kinds of material facility. And just like with the electric company, at the end of the month or every 3 months, they send you a window letter, which means it's a bill for the electricity. And similarly, for all the goods and services here in this universe, we have to pay a debt. We have to pay, and therefore we have a debt when we don't pay. And the rishis means those who distribute knowledge to us. They pass it down painstakingly over many generations so that we can take advantage of it and have vision to go back to the spiritual world. We owe them. Then there are ordinary living entities. Can you think of any animals that you owe who helped you grow up?
Yashoda.
Yashoda? Oh, the cow. Yashoda the cow. And even before that, animals have an integral part in our life. They serve us in so many ways, even unseen. And so the Bhagavatam takes account of that. Here's a little bill. There, you owe all of these people. And what about your family members? How about your mom and dad? They painstakingly raised you and took care of you. So Bhagavatam says the only way to absolve such a debt, pay it off, is sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam. Just, you have to surrender to Mukunda. So at the time of initiation, we're declaring our dependence. Just like if you're bankrupt and you go to the court and everyone's calling you to pay your debts, you go to the judge and you say, please give me bankruptcy protection, and we'll work it out. And that's similar. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tong sarva papibhyo mokshayishami masuja. That you're so far in debt you'll never get out, so I'll help you out. Surrender to me. And don't worry about anything else. Just do service to me. So this is the meaning of taking this vow that I'm depending on Krishna and taking shelter of his merciful protection. So you get a new name, which will end in Dasi, which is highly coveted name because this is a rare moniker to have in this world, Dasi. Everyone wants to be the master, but the devotees want to be the servant of the servant of the servant. And so it's a very cherished name, Dasi. It will be preceded by another name, which you'll hear soon. And you'll never guess. So. If any of you started a pool somewhere for chorus, then nobody's going to win. Okay, so, and then also you'll say with your own voice, with your own tongue, you'll make a vow. You'll make a vow to follow the 4 regular principles and also to maintain at least 16 rounds a day of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's a huge thing. That's when you declare it to the universe, it goes out like a wedge. In fact, the word vow has a V on the beginning. If you take it back to Sanskrit, it comes from the word vrat, and it pushes in a certain place, and that's where you hold on, is from your vow. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was young, he was Sri Vishwambar, he went and met his spiritual master in Gaya, and he asked him for initiation, and his spiritual master knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so as a service he offered it to him. And afterwards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back and asked if he had received the right mantra, because when he started chanting Hare Krishna, he became like a mad person. Tears flowed from his eyes uncontrollably. Sometimes he rolled on the ground, he danced in happiness, sometimes in social situations in which it wasn't appropriate. So he asked his guru, what'd you give me? And his guru gave him a verse from the Bhagavatam. Evam vratasva priyanamakyutya chatanurago chitashuta ucha hasatyato rotiti roti gayati unmadavan nrititi lokabhayaha. Which means that when you take a vow to chant Hare Krishna and you continue it, you stick to it, then your heart will change. It will become soft. So soft that it will melt. And then it becomes, when you're completely pure, like a river of rose apple juice. You heard it correctly. Rose apple juice. And then, of course, some whose hearts melt, they show external symptoms, and others hide them. Prabhupada hid his very carefully. But Madhvacharya says there's 2 symptoms that show up in every Vaishnava who's advanced, whose heart has melted. One is steadiness, because that's one that you can't hide. And it's one you can't fake either, because you're either steady in your practice or you're not. And the other one is called Mukhya Prasada, which means that because your heart is free from the propensity to criticize others, you're not envious, then you speak only for the good of others. Even when you're offering criticism for a good purpose, it's without malice. It's for the good of others. It's called Mukhya Prasada, like whatever you say is prasad, because your heart is pure. So this is the effect of taking the vow to chant Hare Krishna. After that, when you maintain steadiness in chanting the Maha Mantra, then comes the 4th aspect of initiation, which is called mantra. Mantra initiation means that you receive, of course in our line now we receive the Brahma-Gayatri mantra, which is a Vedic mantra. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta added it to the group of mantras, Panchatric mantras that we receive, just to show that when you become a devotee and you're chanting Hare Krishna, then you're automatically a Brahmana. And then there are several other esoteric mantras that are like deities, and from which the Mula mantras emanate. And one may then enter into the process of proper deity worship. And that is the 5th aspect of initiation, is having the opportunity to worship the deity. So this is called Pancha Samskar. And today you're at the stage of Nama, or accepting the name, making a vow, accepting a new name, making a vow. And now I'm going to read you just a couple of very short excerpts from Prabhupada's teachings about chanting the holy name and the advice he gives. And while I'm getting it, please sing Avantikas a Hare Krishna mantra. Thank you. Prabhupada writes in 1968, in November, yoga system is approved, but nobody can follow the rules and regulations strictly. Neither there is suitable place for executing it. And everyone is always full of anxiety. So how they can concentrate? So best thing is to chant Hare Krishna, which is forced meditation. So Krishna is in his holy name, and when we take shelter of chanting Hare Krishna, then Krishna helps us to advance in devotional service. He's called Bindumati. He takes it upon himself to remove the dirty things from our heart. If we can sit down and chant Hare Krishna and leave the door unlocked. So what do I mean? Sometimes people put up a wall around their heart. So once there were two policemen walking through Delhi, and one was saying, you know, it's ironic that we're policemen and we're going around here trying to catch thieves, but the God we worship is known as a thief. He's called Muckenshore. He's always stealing. And the other one said, that's actually fortunate because although these people, they put up high walls and locked gates, Krishna's so expert, he can get through them. He can get over them and take away our anarthas. However, when we take this vow to chant Hare Krishna, it's best to leave the door open, or at least unlocked, and give Krishna permission to please take away the last vestiges of my attachment to the material world. So when we chant Hare Krishna and we hear the sound vibration, it's Krishna forcing his way into our lives to help us remove the last vestiges of our attachments to the material world. So please leave the door unlocked at least, okay? Hare Krishna. Are you all ready for one more?
Yes.
Okay, Nanda Murari and whoever was over. Yes. Uma Mataji. Everyone else, cover your ears. Okay, second one. This is from June 16th, 1969. Regarding your last question about the ecstatic symptoms of chanting Hare Krishna, you should know that the Hare Krishna mantra has an equal effect upon all devotees. Just like the sunshine has an equal effect on everyone, but when it is covered, the sunshine has a different effect. Similarly, the influence of the Hare Krishna mantra becomes manifest when one is no longer covered by the 10 offenses to chanting. The more we become free from the 10 offenses, the more the effect of chanting becomes manifested through us. Everyone can become a great devotee, being freed from the offenses 100%, simply by one's determination and effort. Of the 10 offenses, it's particularly important to pay attention while chanting because Krishna is personally present in his name, and you may notice that if you're talking to someone, for instance, if I'm talking to Nanda Murari Prabhu, and all of a sudden I look at my watch, or even worse, I look at my phone, he'll say something, oh, do you have to go now? And not only would he think that, but I already have gone. I took my attention away from him while I was speaking. I've gone somewhere else. Our attention is so powerful. I was thinking this morning when I was taking a walk in the neighborhood, and I was admiring some of the properties in your neighborhood. And so I was looking and I was thinking, well, don't look too long, because if I'm looking from the street into the house, you know, someone might say, why are you looking in here? And that led me to think about how powerful one's glance is. You just look anywhere. If you're driving on the freeway and you look at the person next to you, they'll be like, what are you looking at? Stop looking at me. So what is that? Our glance is powerful because it's coming from us. It's not electricity, it's not light, it's consciousness. And we're projecting that. So when we're chanting, it's an activity of fixing our consciousness on Krishna in his holy name. And the most fundamental aspect of avoiding the 10 offenses is to be present for the holy name. So one of my good friends, Sakhi Prabhu, who really likes to work on his japa, once said that the admonition for chanting well is be aware that you're chanting. And this morning when we were all chanting together, I was thinking that, okay, am I aware? Because you can be somewhere else. You can be chanting and then thinking, oh, I have to do this later. And then mechanically, it's like the car's running, but nobody's there. So the technique that's recommended by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or the mood, or the process, is to be aware that you're chanting and stay in the holy name. That way you won't make an offense. And the other that's especially important is to avoid blaspheming devotees who have dedicated their lives to the holy name. So if you've ever seen the Ganga, then you know that there are little ripples and sometimes waves on the Ganga. And you might look and say, okay, that's a big wave on the Ganga and that's a little ripple, so the big wave's better than the little ripple. But they're both Ganga water. So how can you make a distinction? The Vaishnavas are very dear to Lord Krishna even in their infancy stage, and sometimes even before they become devotees, they're pre-devotee. Like Dhruva Maharaj, he wasn't yet a Vaishnav the way we know him now, but his stepmother committed an offense to him. And later on, when he became a great devotee, then she got the reaction. So we should be careful of avoiding offense, to avoid offense to those who are pre-devotee, those who may seem to be quiet devotees who are not big, and we should also be careful about offending great devotees, all types. And if you make that your lifestyle, to avoid offending devotees, and especially on the internet, and especially in writing, because there's like road rage, it works well because you don't know who's in the other car. If you looked in when you're about to swerve in front and saw that it was your mother driving, you'd probably hesitate. So there's an impersonal feature to the internet that means that I don't know who's there actually, and I just type and I put it out there. And whatever you write, it stays eternally. And so you have to be a lifestyle of avoiding offenses in chanting the holy name, especially pay attention and avoid offenses to devotees. And then Prabhupada writes in 1970, when we chant, we must concentrate our mind on the sound vibration, and in that way everything will be revealed one after another. The form, the qualities, pastimes, etc. of the Lord. And this is the way of cultivating spiritual realization. Everything will be revealed one after another. Everything comes in due course of time when we chant the holy name without offense. So remember that the main process and the main service that you have every day is to chant Hare Krishna. Atashri Krishna namadi nabhaved grayam indriye seva mukhi jivado swayam eva spuratyada. The first aspect of yoga is service with the tongue, and the best service is chanting Hare Krishna. Last quote. Srila Prabhupada writes on February 27th, 1972, the best remedy is to sit down very tightly and chant Hare Krishna very loudly and hear for a long time until he feels himself one-minded and fixed on Krishna's lotus feet. Want to hear it again?
Yes.
Okay, Nandamari Prabhu wants to hear it. Everyone else, please cover your ears. The best remedy is to sit down very tightly and chant Hare Krishna very loudly and hear for long time. So longer than your mind wants to sit there. They'll say, like, oh, I think we can go now back to the internet, right? It's like, no, wrong. We have to be here for a long time, which means longer than you want. Until he feels himself one-minded and fixed on Krishna's lotus feet. So when you're chanting japa, if you notice that you don't want to stop, that's a good sign. If you also notice that you forgot what time it is, you weren't checking your watch, thinking like, when's prasadam or anything like that. That's a good sign. In absorption and chanting, all advancement ensues. So sit tightly, or if you're going to walk, be really careful that you're paying attention when you chant Hare Krishna and avoid the offenses. And you'll advance very quickly in the process of devotional service. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Yashuvairagyam Gyanam Chayalahaitukam. You'll get special powers, superpowers from chanting Hare Krishna. Everyone say, Haribo! The two superpowers you get, free of cost, no extra charge. They're thrown in, just like the undercoating on a new car. You get knowledge and detachment from the world. Nobody gets that. Knowledge means to see the difference between yourself and your body. Everyone's walking around thinking, I'm my body. Cats think it, dogs think it, mongoose. Is that plural? Mongooses or mongoose? Mongoose? That sounds really bad. Okay. Mongooses definitely think that they're mongooses, unless they were yogis in their last life and then they're wishing they had paid attention during their japa. And then men think it, women think it, everybody's thinking, I'm this, I'm that. But when you chant Hare Krishna, you'll have an otherworldly influence, which is the holy name, which will wake you up to the fact that you're a spiritual soul living in a body. And the second is that by chanting Hare Krishna, you'll be able to overcome bad habits. Because naturally, the material world is very sticky, just like mango sap. If you get it in your hair, you can't get it out. And the material world, when we identify with it, when we hang around, we dabble in things here in the material world. When we loiter, don't loiter and don't dabble. Because the material world gets on you and it's really hard to get off. So stay fixed in the four regular principles and then chant Hare Krishna. Then very quickly the heart will become cleansed. And you make advancement for your desired goal, which is to go back home, back to Godhead. Okay? It's just like on the airplane when you sit in the exit row, they need a verbal yes. She gave a verbal yes. And today is a big verbal yes to the process. She's already dedicated, but she's in the exit row getting to get off out of this material world, and she's going to give a verbal yes that she's determined to get out, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, does anybody else want to say anything before she takes her vows? Okay. Somebody please put her neck beads on. So this is part of Urva Pundra. When you wear neck beads, you'll be walking somewhere that you've never been before. You don't know a soul there, like, let's guess, Rancha Cook. Okay, Nantucket. You don't know anybody in Nantucket, and you're walking down the street, and then somebody will come up to you and say, Haribo! Why do they do that? Because they see your neck beads, and they know what a Hare Krishna means. That this neck beads means that I'm remembering always that I'm servant of the servant of the servant in the parampara. So when those are aspiring for initiation, they wear 2 strands of neck beads, and then when you take initiation, then you wear 3. So it's a very coveted position to be an initiated devotee, to have a guru, to be following the process strictly in devotional service. So congratulations. That's it? That's all. Now, Bhakti B, if you'll kindly come up and you can make your vows. And Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You take one of these cushions so you're a little more comfortable. You can sit on, face me, and sit on sit on that so you're comfortable. Yeah, if that's more comfortable for you. Okay. And so this is the track you've taken is very enlivening to all of us, and the steadiness you've shown in devotional service is exemplary, and also your particular penchant for growing the Lord's flowers is one of the best services. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sharanagati writes about how he starts a garden in his yard, and he keeps Tulsi as the empress of the garden, and he grows all kinds of flowers to offer to the Supreme Personality of God, and he lovingly names all of them, just to enhance the rasa. He's remembering all the flowers he's offering to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada said that opulence in deity worship means flowers. So this is a really beautiful aspect of the Pancharatric system, is offering flowers. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati taraham bhaktyu paritam ashnami paritatmana. He mentions, offer me a flower. That's what he likes. And you've been pleasing Krishna and all the devotees by your service and growing flowers and many other things that you're doing. So we're deeply indebted to you for the steady service you're doing. Haribol. So, Bhakti B, now, if you would kindly tell us the vows that you came here to make today, we'll be deeply grateful.
Hare Krishna. So today, I'm vowing to minimum chant 16 rounds of Mahamantra Hare Krishna every day. I am vowing to abstain from illicit sex. I am vowing to not eat fish, meat, or eggs. I vow to not gamble. And I vow to abstain from intoxication.
Haribol! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Bhakti B. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Following the eternal principle of parampara, taking Srila Prabhupada's and Lord Chaitanya's order to expand the Sankirtan movement as my life and soul, and depending on their mercy, the mercy of the previous acharyas, and all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are like desire trees. I am exceedingly pleased to accept you as my disciple, and therefore a grand disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and a member of the Brahma-Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. May all the previous acharyas and the ocean of mercy, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, shower you with their grace. I hereby joyfully award you the name Bindumati Sakhi Devi Dasi. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And now if you'll take your seat here. I didn't repossess these, I'm just holding them for her. She also has a certificate that says when she got initiated and that she did get initiated, because otherwise how do you prove it? And now we're going to prepare to do the fire. I guess so. If you want to stand up for a minute, just to stretch. Everybody can stand for a minute. We'll have kirtan, and then we'll come back in and start. Yeah, you can sit now.
May I take your phone?
You put it on me, I don't want to put it on myself. Yeah, you can take my phone. like, you can all sit down. And we'll begin with the ceremony. If someone, we need two people, one on this side and one on this side for the Srimad Bhagavatam. You can have it on your phone or the book itself, and please read aloud. Just to yourself, so the vibration is going on either side of the Bhagavatam. Did anybody volunteer over here?
Just to read.
Okay, good. Just to read during the yajna?
Which specific section?
Any.
Can I
Anywhere you
start
choose.
first canto?
Yes, you may.
How loud?
Out loud, in just a second. Savana vavatu, savana bhunaktu, sahaviryan karavavahai, tejasvinam vaditam astu ma vidvashavahai. Om shanti, shanti, shanti. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Swastino Govinda Swastino Chutananto Swastino Vasudevo Vishnu Dharatu Swastino Narayano Naro Vai Swastina Padmanava Purushottam Dharatu Swastino Vishwakshmena Vishweshwaraha Swastino Hrishikesho Harer Dharatu Swastino Vainato Hayohari Swastino Jana Sator Hanu Bhagavatu Dharatu Swasti Swasti Sumangalai Kesho Mahan Shri Krishna Sakchidanandana Sarveshwareshwaro Dharatu Karotu Swasni Me Krishna Sarvalokeshwareshwaraha Karshnadayastu Kurvantu Swasni Me Lokapanavaha Om Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Now you can chant. Do you know where that little stick is that has the... Ihasani Rudasva, Ihasani Rusva, Ihasani Bhuko Bhava, Ihasani Bhuko Bhava. now we'll begin the process of offering grains in the fire. So when you hear swaha, everyone can repeat swaha, and you can, as we discussed earlier, offer the grains in the fire. Om Bhu Swaha Idam Vishnave Idanamama. When I say swaha, put in. Om Bhuva Swaha Idam Achutaya Idam Nama Idam Namama. Om Swaha Idam Narayana Idam Namama. Om Bhuva Swaha Idam Anantaya Idam Namama. And now, if you'll kindly repeat after me. O Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Swaha 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 Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Tadati Swapadantikam Swaha 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 Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvatutam Arijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Swaha Swaha Swaha. Now you say the pranam mantra for your guru. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Swaha Swaha Swaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Swaha Swaha Swaha. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Swaha Swaha Swaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Swaha Swaha Swaha. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Prabhave Namaha Swaha Swaha, Swaha. Lost. What's the next mantra? Madhuryo Jwala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virdhapa Apasitanta Tvanta Harine Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Gaura Virbhava Omestvam Nirdesa Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Namo Mahavranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvishe Namaha Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Jayatam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarva Swapadambo Jao Radha Madana Mohana Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumata Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanastau Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Krishtalibi Sevyamanu Smarami Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamshivata Swaha, Swaha,
celestial planets and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord, whereas demons are
Radharani.
promoted to Brahmaloka.
Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Swaha 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 Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Om Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Swaha 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 Om Mantrahinam Krihinam Bhaktihinam Janardana Yad Pujitam Maya Devam Paripunam Tarastu Me Swaha. And now you can stand up. You take that banana in your right hand. And actually, everyone can stand for the last part. Purnahuti. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. You put that in here, in a little coat. Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, put it in here. The chanda. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, and a little coconut. Hare Krishna, little piece. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, little tulsi wood. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Purna, no, Namo Brahmane Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagaditaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam, Purnat Purnam Udachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vishishyate. Place the banana in the fire. Swaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.